How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to an episode of the House of Horror Lost on VHS and Buddy's Book Club hybrid show of Frankenstein's monster of a creation we've got going on today. And how are all three of these shows coming together, you may ask? Well, today we're going to be talking about some horror, obviously, that happens to be in book form, which features many films that just so happen to be lost on VHS. And you've obviously read the title of the video, so you know what I'm talking about. I'm obviously speaking about Analog Nightmares by Richard Mogg. Analog Nightmares is a comprehensive look at the history of shot-on-video films, all the way back from Board House in 1982 to over 260 films during the big craze in the 80s and 90s. This was the pre-internet age and an age before every human being carried a high-quality video camera in their pocket. At the time, films were normally shot on film. But of course, this was a very hard, time-consuming, and very costly way of doing things. So a lot of indie filmmakers and low-budget productions would shoot on VHS, because generally this was the cheapest and easiest way to do it at the time. Hell, that's what I used to do when I was a kid. I made tons of movies on my VHS camera, and I'm sure a lot of you watching this have done that too. And sure, it's crude, but it gets the job done. The goal of this book is to spread the love of shot-on-video film, and it really is achieved here. And it really captures the essence of what shot-on-video is all about. They didn't have much money, equipment, or experience, but what they did have was a lot of heart, determination, and creativity. And the book really captures the essence of that. It's impossible to touch on every single film that he talks about in this book. We'd be here all day. But he reviews a ton of classic SOVs like Spine, 555, and Heavy Metal Massacre. He even talks about some films that we've talked about on our Lost on VHS show before, like the infamous Death Row Diner and one of my personal favorites, Blood Lake. And this book isn't just film reviews. It's a history lesson on how shot-on-video came to be and why it was so popular to shoot in this format. There's also a ton of behind-the-scenes information about the films that he's talking about here, and in-depth and heartfelt interviews with the filmmakers that were involved. I am incredibly biased, but my favorite interview that's in the book is with Tim Boggs, the director of Blood Lake. Of course, we've covered Blood Lake on this channel in depth various times in the past, and Tim Boggs himself has come on my podcast before, where he talked to me and Jared for about 2 hours, not just about Blood Lake, but filmmaking, life, and just his journey as a person. It was very emotional, insightful, and inspirational, and I think Richard had a similar experience when he reached out to Tim to be a part of this book. After talking back and forth through email for a while, Tim sent Richard a 22-page memoir, which can be found in full in the book, and is very similar to the podcast we did with him a couple years back. Again, it's very heartfelt, inspiring, and educational, and ultimately very entertaining. Besides the interview with Tim, there are other insightful interviews like with David "The Rock" Nelson, who was basically known as the Ed Wood of the 90s, Todd Jason Cook from Evil Knight and Demon Dolls fame, and a plethora of others. Besides this, Richard also brings himself and all of us back to the good old days. He shares memories about going to the video store to rent movies, and just how he became interested in shot-on-video in general. It's very relatable to anyone that grew up in the 80s and 90s, or just anyone in general who's interested in shot-on-video films. This is the perfect coffee table book for your movie or game room. That's where I keep it. If you want to go ahead and read this, I would advise not doing it quickly, because you could probably plow through it in just a couple hours. But in order to really retain the information and enjoy it, I suggest that you take your time with it. That way you can really absorb what all these films are about, and Richard's writing style is actually very conversational and fun, so I think if you give it some time, let it sink in, that's really for the best. Not only is it great for just fans of horror films, it's great for filmmakers and up-and-coming filmmakers. If you're interested in pursuing filmmaking as a hobby or career, this book is definitely one to check out. Richard's next book actually comes out in about a month, and it's called Gift Wrapped and Gutted, so that's definitely one I'm going to be asking for in my stocking this year. So with that, I definitely recommend that you guys pick up a copy of Analog Nightmares. I really love the book, and I feel like I'm going to be referencing it for years to come, and hopefully I can get my hands on his next book and talk about it for you guys as well. And I just want to say congratulations to Richard on a fantastic piece of work, and thank you for sharing your love of shot-on-video films with the world. That is about it for this time, guys. If you haven't already, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so you know when new episodes of the House of Horror come out. And if you give this video a thumbs up and share it with a friend, it would be greatly appreciated. I'm hoping to do more episodes of Buddy's Book Club in the future, so if you have any book recommendations for me, let me know down in the comments below. I'm into horror, fantasy, biographies, manga, anything. And that is about all I have to say for this time. I'm gonna see you guys back here tomorrow for another episode of the House of Horror. Take care, everyone, and stay spooky.